than Miami, Florida. I will kick things off. Today we're going to be talking about a solution, a food safety solution, clean label solution, shelf life extension solution, but most importantly, a natural solution. And that solution is high pressure processing, the equipment that Leeward Community College now has access to, as well as producers in Hawaii. So just to confirm, Naomi, are you able to see my screen before I kick things off?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, like I mentioned, HVP offers a number of benefits. Most importantly, on the top of the list, that's food safety. This year alone, we've heard about a number of recalls around meat products, cheeses, seafood, oysters. So this technology prioritizes and ensures that our food is safe. But not only safe, but it allows to develop a natural product. Since you don't have to rely on chemical preservatives or additives, you're able to extend the shelf life naturally without using heat. It just involves a method of cold water and high pressure. And then lastly, it helps brands and food companies protect themselves against recalls, like I had mentioned. So how does this technology work? Well, it uses two principles, high pressure and water, like I mentioned. And it's based on a isostatic principle. We're basically applying pressure on all equal sides of a product that's already been packaged. And what happens during this compression is we inactivate pathogenic bacteria such as Salmonella, Listeria, E. coli, as well as spoilage organisms that are responsible for making our foods not last long. So I'll play a quick video for you guys to visualize how that process works. So as you can see, already packaged products, in this case guacamole, is placed into these baskets or carriers. These carriers then enter a vessel. So that vessel component is filled with water through the plugs that are on each side of the machine. Once that vessel is filled with water, we insert fully the plugs and we lock the plugs in by wedges on each side. And then through what we call intensifiers, we start applying high pressure water into this vessel. So as we build up pressure, this process takes about 2 minutes. We get to the desired pressure that we initially insert into the parameters. So this is what the intensifier looks like. It's based on a piston that uses hydraulic oil. And what we're doing is we're pumping out high pressure water and pulling in low pressure water. So it works on a stroke method. So once those intensifiers stop working, once we get to that pressure, usually in most cases is 87,000 PSI, which is equivalent to 6,000 bar. We then enter the holding time stage, which is for a set period of time. And then we instantly decompress. So we let go of pressure, the vessel comes out of place, and those baskets are then retrieved on the other side of the machine. And that's what you would call a full cycle. So the product has already been treated with HVP. You can now remove that already packaged product from the baskets and remove the excess water off them, and then those can be placed into cold storage, ready for distribution. So in a nutshell, this is a diagram that explains the process. This is an example of a juice bottle. Imagine you have a cold pressed juice. You put that cold pressed juice into the carrier. That carrier enters the vessel. We fill up that vessel with water. We then start applying pressure. We get to the desired pressure. We then hold that pressure for a set period of time. It's typically 3 minutes for most products. Then we let go of pressure. Then the vessel removes all the water from the machine. That vessel comes out of place. And then we remove the product from the baskets. So you guys have been hearing me talk about holding time, pressure. So these are two key parameters when we talk about high pressure processing. So the three main are going to be the temperature. So the temperature of the water. Typically, most products are processed between 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. the pressure. So all commercial HPP machines can go up to 6,000 bar, which is equivalent to 87,000 PSI. So if you think about this amount of pressure, it's about 5 times more pressure found at the deepest part of the ocean, which would be the Mariana Trench. And then the third parameter will be the holding time. So most products have a holding time of 180 seconds. Some may have a longer holding time. For example, deli meats and more sensitive products will have a longer holding time. So what is compatible with HPP? What type of products, can I put in the HPP machine? So this is just a quick highlight of the range of products that can go through the HPP machine, everything from juices and beverages, meat products, avocado, guacamole, different types of plant-based and fruit products like hummus, fruit and veggie purees, most commonly used for baby food, ready-to-eat meals that are refrigerated, different types of seafood products, dairy-based yogurts, pet food, and less commonly, but there are some use cases, cosmetics and pharma. So if we take a deeper dive into these categories, I just want to give you guys, the idea of successful proof of concept products that exist currently in the market and that are currently leveraging HPP and hyperbaric machines. So within the juice and beverage category, you have cold pressed juices, like I mentioned, which are basically extracts or pressed fruits and veggies. Different types of smoothies, nut-based milks, cold brew teas, cold brew coffee, even extracts of cold brew coffee, fruit-based waters like watermelon water, coconut water, vegetable soups that are packaged in bottles ready to drink, functional shots that also have probiotics, healthy energy drinks that are not loaded with tons of preservatives, as well as probiotic drinks. Within the meat category, like I mentioned earlier in this presentation, there have been a number of recalls around deli meats this year, mainly with Listeria, one that resulted in multiple deaths. So HPP really presents itself as a successful solution to prevent these recalls from happening. It's a post-packaging process. So we're inactivating that bacteria after the product's already been packaged. So we prevent any recontamination from taking place.
Okay, thank you.
As far as meat products, you have dry cured meats. Think of things like salami, prosciutto, deli meats, ham and turkey, cooked meats. You can use shredded chicken, chicken breast slices that that are ready to eat. And then less commonly, but there are some value-add opportunities around raw meats that are marinated. As far as raw meats go, you can expect a shelf life increase of anywhere between 30 and 60 days, and for cooked meats, anywhere between 60 and 120 plus days. Within meats, following the conversation around meat, there's a category that recently has been exploding in the HPP industry, and that's the growth of HPP fresh and raw pet food. So the FDA does recognize raw pet food the same way they regulate human grade meats. So HPP is mainly used as a food safety solution for a lot of these raw meat formulations. It provides a kill step in the production process. For fresh cooked pet food products, it's mainly used for shelf life extension. Both of these, raw and fresh cooked, are usually refrigerated or frozen. And then there are some companies like Kiwi and Steve's Real Food are customers that are adding another processing step, which in this case is freeze drying. So they remove all the water content from the product to make a shelf stable product, but it still remains being a raw formulation. The next category is avocado products. So this was, in fun fact, the first commercial HPP product back in 1997. So, I mean, and I'm not surprised because it really HPP presents itself as the perfect solution for avocado products. Aside from freezing guacamole or adding preservatives, HPP is truly the only solution to extend the shelf life and preserve the quality of these heat sensitive products. Most of our machines for avocado processing are located in Mexico, of course, California, Colombia, Guatemala, and Africa. And with as far as shelf life extension, you can expect anything from a 60 to 90-day shelf life. So here are just a few examples of our customers that leverage the technology for avocado, everything from obviously guacamole, avocado purees that can be then shipped for food service. Within a restaurant, you can open the bag and make different value-add products around there. Avocado-based dressings for salads. Interestingly, avocado beverages. We've also seen some avocado smoothies on the market, avocado halves, and then salsa that has avocado blended into it. As far as salsas and plant-based products, you can expect a shelf life of anywhere between 60 and 90 plus days. HPP not only helps with freshness, quality, but also shelf life, and most importantly, while maintaining a clean label. Recently, when the whole plant-based growth started happening, a lot of products started, there was a lot of hype around plant-based products, but a lot of these products contained a lot of preservatives to be able to extend the shelf life. So, HPP really solidified itself in this category by creating clean labels around some of these products. Some of our customers include Ithaca hummus that are sold from coast to coast in the United States. I think you could also find them in Costco. Dips, such as Good Foods Group that has a plant-based queso dip, and bitchin sauce that's made out of nuts. Salad dressings, fresh salsa. Our customer Cocina Fresca processes using HPP. They include ingredients like jalapeno, pieces of garlic, tomatoes, of course, and cilantro. And after HPP, you can still see all these ingredients. With a thermal process, these kind of just get bundled into the tomatoes, and they kind of just loses its natural taste. Other products, ready to eat, Mush, that does a ready to eat overnight oat product with almond milk, and then also plant-based milks or other products that leverage HPP. Earlier, I mentioned the use of fruit and veggie purees. When we think of baby food, food safety is always a priority, but especially when thinking of baby food, it's even more so a priority. HPP ensures that these food products are not only safe to consume but also healthy. These are packaged in formats usually in pouches or fruit and veggie cups. Less commonly used products, but that still exist in the market and continue to grow, are fresh cheeses, both soft and hard cheeses, raw milk, mainly in Australia and Mexico, functional beverages, dairy-based beverages and yogurts, different types of spreads that include dairy, and then some cold brew coffees. So ready-to-eat meals, HPP has played a key role in moving these meals from the freezer section to the refrigerated perimeter store of the grocery store. You can expect a shelf life between 45 to 60 days. These products are usually consist of a carbohydrate, a bed of rice or grain with a protein layered on top. And yeah, it's just convenience, fresh, natural, and even just perception of the consumer that recognizes a refrigerated product as healthy, products that don't have preservatives. And then my favorite application, which is the seafood category, just because it really has a dual purpose. So all these products that we've mentioned, all are processed within its own packaging. Seafood product is the only category where we actually process both pre and post packaging. So we use HPP as an extraction method of the meat. So if we load up, live lobsters, live crabs, live oysters into the baskets, what the pressure does is it helps detach the meat from the shell using lower pressure. So we don't need to rely on those, 6,000 bars. We can do this at, 3,000 bar. And it allows you to create a value add opportunity by offering a raw meat, 100% fully extracted product. And we'll show you guys examples of videos of what that looks like throughout later in the presentation. But aside from that, as far as post-packaging goes, there's customers processing raw fish, raw fillets, cooked octopus, smoked tuna, algae, customer in South Korea that's exporting to the US and selling into Costco. This is a seaweed salad, different types of fish salads, white fish, salmon fish, ready-to-eat meals that I touched on, and cooked crab meat as well. So actually in Miami, we have a customer that catches pulls the meat from the crab in Venezuela, exports to Miami, and then HPPs the product for a food safety measure and then sells here in the United States. So that wraps up the potential of different categories of use cases for HPP. So now we will begin the portion of the live Q&A. And so these are some of the questions that previously came in through the registration. So I think we're going to divide this by answering some of these questions, and Daniela is going to help me tackle some of these questions. And then once we're done with these pre-submitted questions, we'll open the floor for live Q&A for any questions that come into the chat to be answered. If you have any follow-up questions within, as we're answering these questions, any doubts, any questions whatsoever, just feel free to drop them in the chat. We're happy to answer those as we're answering these questions. So the first question, and Daniela, maybe you can tackle this one, but it's how effective is HPP against food bacteria?
Thank you, Anthony. Well, HPP is pretty effective tackling food bacteria. So depending on the pressure and holding time that is applied, the HPP treatment that you decide applying to your specific food product, you'll obtain different inactivation levels. So for example, at pretty low pressures, you can inactivate parasites. And by increasing a little bit more the pressure between the 2,000 and 3,000 bar, you can inactivate yeasts and molds, which means that you'll be inactivating these deteriorative microorganisms. And while increasing even more the pressure up to 5,000, 6,000 bars, you'll be inactivating viruses and also bacteria. However, I would just want to make a small remark here that HPP is unable to inactivate spore-forming bacteria, mainly spores. So because of this, it's important to consider adding additional specific controls in order to tackle this.
Yeah. Just to add on, HPP is a widely recognized food safety technology. Both the FDA, USDA, and other agencies around the world recognize HPP for the last, I would say, 15 plus years as a food safety measure. The follow-up question says, how do you control, Danielle, you mentioned HPP isn't effective in inactivating bacterial spores. So how do you control bacterial spores?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we usually ask our customers to reduce the pH below 4.6 because below this pH, spore-forming bacteria, mainly like the spores, cannot germinate and hence they cannot grow and produce lethal toxins. So this is the easiest way to control bacteria and spore-forming bacteria from germinating. Also, storing the product under refrigerated conditions can help slow down chemical reactions and enzymatic activity that could deteriorate the product even more, and also that could help other spore-forming bacteria from growing.
Got it. And then one thing I just wanted to add on, because of the reason that we can inactivate bacterial spores, it's why why HPP products need to remain in the cold chain. So all HPP products, with the exception of some examples within that pet food, that freeze-dried pet food I showed you guys, are all refrigerated products. So how much shelf life can I get from using HPP? So I did mention a few of them as I was walking through the different commercial examples, but you can expect up to 4 months of shelf life with HPP products. Obviously, it varies on a number of characteristics. What's the raw material that you're using? What's the initial microbial load in that raw material? The pH of the product, the bricks. What's the water activity, which we'll also touch on the importance of water activity later on in this presentation. But if we're speaking very generally, this is what you can expect with a juice, cold pressed juice that has a shelf life of 3 to 5 days. You can extend that to 120. We've even seen cases, depending on the acidity, to 150 plus days. Guacamole, I mentioned 60 to 90 days, as well as cooked meat products. But this is just a graph that you can see within the different categories of shelf life extension. How does HPP compare to thermal pasteurization?
I can handle that, Anthony. So HPP is considered as like a cold pasteurization. So you will obtain pretty similar inactivation levels of bacteria as pasteurization does. However, you won't be applying heat in your processing, while you'll be processing by utilizing pressure as the pasteurization medium. You can think it like that, by using water as a pressurizing medium. So in contrast to a pasteurization technology, HPP will help preserve all these quality sensory attributes of each food product. Whether pasteurization will mostly deteriorate this because HPP will not interact with what we call covalent bonds, which means you can think like links in which molecules are linked between each other. And that is why HPP help preserve all these nutrients, vitamins, also any other compounds of interest that can enhance the quality of the product. However, pasteurization, by applying heat, they interact with covalent bonds, and that is why you can lose nutritional value and also decrease the quality and sensory aspect of the food product. Another thing to mention is that with pasteurization, you can obtain temperature gradients because you're utilizing heat in order to inactivate microorganisms. However, with HPP, there are no gradients because you'll be applying pressure by using water as a pressurizing medium. Hence, you'll be applying an isostatic pressure. And by saying an isostatic pressure, I mean that you'll have the same amount of pressure at every point in the product that you will process, even in the center, at the surface of it, so you won't have any gradients after processing it. And again, HPP will not interact with the food composition, and you won't create any new compounds after processing it. However, with pasteurization, by applying high temperatures, you can still create new compounds which aren't like good for your health, for example, AGs, acrylamides, and others.
Yeah, and then I think the last thing I just wanted to throw out there is taste. If you really just picked up a heat pasteurized juice and a HPP juice, you can literally taste the difference between the freshness of the product. What products are suitable for HPP?
Yeah, so a pretty easy way to understand if your product is suitable with HPP is by analyzing their water activity value. And by saying water activity, I don't mean the moisture content inside your product. Water activity is a different parameter which measures how reactive the water inside your product is. And by saying how reactive is like, you can think that your food product contains water molecules, and these water molecules will interact with other molecules such as proteins, carbohydrates, fats. So you want these water molecules to be pretty free, pretty available, instead of being pretty attached to these other molecules. So that's what this water activity value measures. So with HPP, we want this water activity to be pretty high, above 0.96, in order to obtain high inactivation of pertinent microorganisms, pertinent pathogens, deteriorative microorganisms, and with this extend the shelf life even more and obtain a lethal step. So here we divided different food products depending on their water activity value. So you can see a high water activity value includes fruits, vegetables, meats, fish, milk, other types of beverages, also cheese and cured meat products. They also are pretty compatible with HPP, and they have a water activity between 0.91 and 0.95. This can also work with HPP. Also, fermented meat products are compatible with the technology, and HPP can act as a post-lethal step in this type of products as well to help avoid any recontamination, avoid recalls. And the minimum water activity required for these products will be 0.87. So just to conclude, the products that are not suitable with HPP because of their water activity, which will be pretty low, will be spices and powders, also dried nuts or fruits, like dry fruits.
Jellies?
Also, sorry?
Would you say, like jellies, would you say?
Yeah, like jellies too, like products that are pretty highly concentrated, also extracts, bread, and pastries too. They do not work with HPP pretty well.
Thank you, Danny. So the next question is, what type of packaging is suitable for HPP? If you want, I can take this one. So if you guys remember from the video, we're loading up these baskets with already packaged product. These products are then entering a vessel where we're submerging this product in water, and we're applying, basically compressing with pressure, the product. So that leaves us to needing to find packaging that's one, flexible, elastic, and then two, that's water resistant. So almost all HPP products are plastic because of that, those two characteristics I just explained. Usually PET, PP, HDPE, but we do have a HPP packaging guideline and supplier list that we can share. Maybe Naomi, I can share that with you, and we can include that into the follow-up email with the recording. But it basically outlines the best practices and recommendations for each packaging type. And we break that down by category. So, bottles, bags, bag and box, tubs, films, cups, trays, doy packs or pouches, even one-way PET kegs, mainly used for like the food service and beverage industry. But yeah, there's a lot of good info on that that can be a valuable resource.
Anthony, while you're on the topic of packaging, so in the chat, Rami asked, is there a limitation on the aggregate size of the packaging?
So the limitation comes down to the size of the basket. As long as you can get the product inside the basket, you can process it. Obviously, meeting the characteristics of flexible and water resistant. So through our range of machines, each basket has different sizes of diameters and lengths, but it's basically just meeting that criteria.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the follow-up question is, what are some packaging best practices when processing with HPP? So I mentioned two already, looking for a flexible, water-resistant package, but also to maximize productivity and reduce the cost. Your goal is to find the best, efficient way of loading up the carrier or the blue baskets with your packaging and reducing the amounts of air inside that package. One, because obviously you want to process more product and you don't want to be processing air. But two, if you leave too much air in the product, it's prone to failure. So we recommend a minimal headspace of 8% in the package to, for that packaging to not fail. And as far as the productivity, you're obviously you're processing more product per cycle, and it also takes less time to raise pressure because there's less filling in the vessel.
Yeah, maybe.
Danielle, I'll hand it over to you for this question, which reads, can I process whole fruit pieces with HPPT?
Thank you, Anthony. So the answer is yes, you can process whole fruit pieces with HPP in order to help extend the shelf life and also for HPP to act as a lethal step. However, there are certain things to take into consideration when looking to process whole fruits with HPP. The first thing is that if you introduce these fruit chunks, vacuum packed, and put it through HPP, you'll see that some juice from the whole fruit will come out. And as you can see on the image, the before and after, the untreated and HPP treated samples, what will happen is that the cell walls will break and then the juice will be released from in the inside of the fruit chunk. So because of this, you could lose the fruit shape that was initially introduced into HPP. I don't know, Anthony, if you can change the slide, please. Yeah, you can see the image at my left of whole fruits. This is a mango product. First, it is the control, which is vacuum packed, then HPP, and you can see how it lost its initial shape. However, we suggest to process these fruit chunks by adding some juice, some fruit juice to it in order to help preserve its shape, and also you can create a value-added product, such as these commercial products like Del Monte, and I think there are other commercial examples, yeah, like Vita or Fashion and Naturae. You can see how they add the fruit chunks with the juice, and it works pretty well. And also you can package it in cups with a film and also in pouches or bags as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniela. Next question is, how is guacamole or avocado puree compatible with HPP?
Well, as you mentioned, Anthony, there are only two ways in order to have processed guacamole or avocado puree, which is you could either commercialize it frozen, or you could process it with HPP and preserve the cold chain through a refrigerated storage. So as you can see, HPP does not change the aspect of guacamole. You can see this example where there's a control, which is an untreated sample, and an HPP product. You can see how they look similar, like they look the same. And another thing to mention is that HPP will help reduce the enzymatic activity of some oxidative enzymes, such as PPO, for up to 50% of its activity. So this will help delay and reduce the browning effect that could happen in guacamole. Additionally, you will package it under vacuumed conditions, so you will reduce the oxidative reactions that could occur.
Yeah, I guess to sum that up, so PPO is responsible for the browning that happens when you guys see kind of your avocado, turning brown. What we do is we stop that PPO from going, we inactivate it. So that's why you're able to get an extended shelf life avocado product up to 60, 90 days. Yeah, so these are just two examples. I'm sure you guys have come across this Holy Guacamole product, and then our customer Good Foods that has a different lines of avocado products. Next question is, does the product's packaging type, shape, capacity impact microbial inactivation with HPP?
No. What's important to consider is to remember what Anthony mentioned before, to find a packaging that is compatible with the technology, which is flexible and water resistant. Also, no matter if you process a used product that has 5 ounces or 10 ounces, the lethal effect of HPP by inactivating microorganisms will be the same, regardless of the volume of the packaging. So remember, as I mentioned before, the HPP technology will help obtain an homogeneous treatment, which means that you will prevent having pressure gradients all through your product because of the isostatic principle. So all your products will be compressed in a 15%. So regardless of the packaging format, while you comply with it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I guess the best way I can explain to help you guys visualize this concept is, let's say you have that same water bottle, you inserted a grape inside that water bottle. If as you're HPPing it, that grape will be stable in the smack center of that water bottle because we're applying pressure equally at equal points of every single sides of that packaging. So the grape will not burst. It'll be within the water, right in the center. So that's basically the isostatic principle that takes place with HPP. The next question is, can raw fish be processed with HPP? What are the limitations?
Yes, raw fish fillets can be processed with HPP. However, it's important to consider that pretty low pressures could be applied because if we increase the pressure a lot above the 300 megapascals, as you can see on the screen, you can obtain different, like a cooked appearance after processing it. And the reason why this occurs is because you will start denaturing proteins in raw fish. So you'll start getting a more paler color and also a more rubbery texture. So that is why we suggest processing at pretty low pressures in order to help extend the shelf life a little bit more, but still you will extend it, but keep into consideration the changes in texture and also in color.
Yeah. I know the word denaturing has a negative connotation, but it just simply means that, you're changing the composition of that food matrix. So that's why the color of the product changes.
And
just
to
go ahead, David.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, just to mention that the denaturation doesn't, as Anthony mentioned, does not change the nutritional value of the proteins that are processed. The amino acids will be the responsible of giving this nutritional value to these proteins. So you can think that amino acids are linked through covalent bonds and this won't be affected. So you will preserve all the nutritional value. The only thing is that proteins will change their shape. You can think it like that.
When it comes to raw fish, I guess the more successful ones are the pale white fishes that, you don't have this huge color change compared to, a darker fish like salmon.
Exactly.
And the same thing happens with raw meats. I don't know if you guys remember to that image I showed of one of our customers, but as you apply these, high pressures of 6,000 bar, you get that same denaturation effect. And what customers do is, to kind of not mask that effect, but they'll, take the value add advantage approach of just marinating, using paprika, natural seasonings to create a value add product. The next question is, can sugarcane juice be processed with HPP?
Yes, it can. And currently there are a lot of commercial examples in the market available of sugarcane juice processed with HPP, since it is a highly perishable product because of its high sugar content. HPP can help develop a product that can help preserve its nutritional and sensory attributes. Additionally, same as in guacamole, HPP can help reduce the enzymatic activity at a certain level of enzymes responsible of causing this brown coloration in this type of products, and also of changing the flavor taste of this as well. So because of this, HPP can help as well extend the shelf life even more. And there's a next, you can extend the shelf life for up to 45, 60-day shelf life, even more depending on the formulation. Additionally, you will help preserve all the nutritional and sensory and quality aspects that are of interest. Additionally, I know that sugarcane juice has compounds that have a high nutritional value with a high antioxidant activity. So you will also preserve this. And these are two commercial examples. One is raw pressery and another one is second nature. And I wanted to share this with you. So they add the sugarcane juice, which usually has a really high pH above 4.6. So in order to reduce the pH, they add some citrus juices such as lime or lemon juice, also antioxidants such as vitamin C, ascorbic acid. So this way, this helps them lower the pH below 4.6 so that no spore-forming bacteria, such as, for example, Clostridium botulinum, can grow and germinate and present a risk in their product.
Yeah, and this is also a very common approach for other, commonly known juice blends that have a higher pH above 4.6. You incorporate fresh lime juice to bring down that, or lemon, to bring down that pH below 4.6.
Yes.
Can I process fresh pineapple with HPP?
Yes, you can. And there are a lot of commercial examples as well in the market of different pineapple-based products that are processed with HPP. We suggest processing also like the fruit chunks with their own juice as well, so that you can preserve the initial shape that was introduced into the packaging. Also, you can either marketize this in different packaging formats, such as in cups with a film on top, also in pouches or in bags, and this works pretty well as well. Also, you will double or even triple the shelf life of this type of products as well.
Is HPP effective in different tropical fruits, for example, mango, banana, or cantaloupe?
Yes,
So
same
looks like
as
we have no support material, but if you want to just go ahead and answer that one, Danielle.
yeah, for this type of products, same as before, HPP will help increase the shelf life, double or even triple it. Additionally, it will help act as a lethal step, so you can easily reach a 5-log reduction of pertinent pathogens such as Salmonella, Listeria, E. coli. Hence, FDA will be okay with this. And
Yeah.
for example, banana, mango, they also contain a lot of endogenous enzymes which could cause any deterioration to its physical appearance. So HPP can also help reduce this enzymatic activity at a certain level to help preserve this quality and sensory aspect of these products.
Yeah, and the three main commercial examples are the companies use HPP for usually juice, purees, blends of purees, and chunks in their own juice, like Daniela has been talking about. The next question is HPP practical to shuck clusters or of rock oysters? So we included here a video of oysters that have already been ran through the HPP machine, and we're going to show you different examples of parameters. Like I mentioned, for oysters and all different types of extraction methods, you use lower pressure. So we're in the range of 2,600 to up to 3,500 bar with different holding times. So I will play this video for you guys. So this here is a process at 2,600 bar for 70 seconds. So what you're able to achieve at these pressures is you're inactivating virus, norovirus, Vibrio, which tends to be a problem, especially in the summertime at peak temperatures. So this is 3,000 bar at 100 seconds. So you see that meat literally just falls off from the oysters. So you get food safety, shelf life extension, 18 to 21 days if they're kept on ice. And then also just a value add opportunity. It's a different product that usually is not commonly in the market. So the same thing goes for lobsters. These are just two different, this is a commercial example by Ready Lobster, where they sell extracted claw and knuckle meat. There's companies that literally, they commercialize this differently. They'll do the tail or shuck in tail, so the consumer can retrieve the lobster tail from the shell, or both offer it raw or cook the lobster meat. So this is a lobster that has already been ran through the HPP machine, and here you can see the extraction process. This is a great value prop for chefs, that can just receive the raw lobster meat and not have to deshell, in the restaurant. They can create these elaborate dishes. And it improves also the yield. You're able to extract 100% of lobster meat as if it was otherwise, cooked. You are leaving some meat in there at times. All right, so enough talking about seafood. Let's move on to coconut water. Can coconut water be processed with HPP?
Yes, it can. And there are different commercial examples currently in the market. Some are shown on screen. Few of these are discontinued, just to show you some examples. However, take note that coconut water, naturally, it has a pH above 4.6. So it's important to consider adding different controls in order to control the germination of the spores of Clostridium botulinum. And the easiest way is lowering the pH below 4.6. And some of these commercial examples and some that are available in the market in different places in the world, they use citrus juices in order to help reduce this pH and commercialize it easier.
Not only coconut water, but one of my favorite products is a coconut water blended with coconut meat, and they turn that into a smoothie. It's absolutely delicious. But those are just different, products that you can create with HPP. So next question is, how do you validate the effectiveness of HPP?
So in order to validate its lethal effectiveness, mainly what you're referring to, what you will require to do is perform a validation study. And this validation study is something that a laboratory or a university that has an HPP unit and a laboratory in order to help you inoculate microorganisms can perform for you. And they will have enough experience to give you advice on this. And also us as at Hiperbaric, we can also guide you on this as well.
Yeah.
So a validation study is different to what it is a shelf life study. So a validation study, as its name says, will help validate that you will obtain a lethal effect by decreasing at a certain level pertinent pathogens. So I mean by this that your product will be safe to consume. So a laboratory, what will be doing is that they will be inoculating at a known level different microorganisms. For example, for a juice product, I'll take this as an example. They'll be inoculating Salmonella, Listeria monocytogenes, E. coli, and they will be passing it through HPP to see the reduction level that it will occur. In fruit juices, what legislation will be asking for will be a 5-log reduction, and this can be pretty easily achieved with HPP. So after the laboratory analyzes this, they will start following this study up through the refrigerated storage, and they will create a document which is called a validation study. And this will need to be added in your plan HACCP so that the food authorities can check it and validate that your product is safe to consume throughout the shelf life that you mentioned through this plan.
Yeah, and like Noah was saying, we have what's called the HPP Academia Network, which Leeward Community College is part of, and a good number of these labs and academia partners offer these services to be able to help companies validate their products in the market. And I believe they're going to be touching on that at the later on in the presentation. So four more questions left. Are there HPP resistant batch identification methods available?
Yes, they are. There's ink that is pressure sensitive, and it can be added to the packaging label. So you can see how its color changes depending on how the product has been processed. So you can see first the unprocessed one is white colored, then the insufficiently processed, which means that maybe there was an error or something was mixed. It has a light blue color, and then the successfully processed has a dark color in it, a blue ink. You can see also in the image, the video successfully processed with the blue mark, and the unsuccessfully one, which is white.
And that just is to help with traceability. If you guys want to learn more, there's a website on top. It's a company by the name of ctiinks.com. And actually, I think this is the last question. Can raw milk be processed with HPP?
Yes, raw milk can be processed with HPP, and currently an Australian and Mexican company both are processing raw milk in their countries, Villa de Patos and Made by Cow. They have their processes patented. And I just want to share that the European Food Safety Agency in the 2022, they shared a pretty complete document where they validated the processing of raw milk with HPP, and they analyzed 6 different microorganisms by inoculating this into raw milk product, and they were able to achieve different inactivation levels, which helped comply with what legislations worldwide will ask for. However, in the US, it's important to consider the food safety authorities in order to understand how the validation will be required to be done in order to start doing this.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up all the questions we had as far as the pre-submitted questions. I'm not sure, Naomi, if any other questions have came in through the chat, but would be happy, to take in any questions or any follow-up questions.
Yeah, so we've gotten a number of questions in the chat as well as through Zoom's Q&A feature. Several of the questions have been around, is there a way to utilize glass? You folks mentioned that the product goes into the high pressure processing unit in package, thus the flexible packaging. But there's some questions about, for example, can you use a tote to send your product through and then
Yes, as far as using glass, and if the worry is kind of I'll answer this question in two portions. If the worry is sustainability with our traditional HP machine, which is what you guys have seen so far, that post-packaging process, there are a number of options. There are companies that produce rPET, which is basically recyclable PET, and other sustainable materials. There's a company that designs packaging around sugarcane. So that's an interesting project as well. But as far as using glass, we created a machine that's based around the same concept of our traditional impact machine, but this is called the bulk machine. So everything functions the same, with the exception that instead of loading products into baskets, we are filling from a tank. And this machine's meant for only liquids, is moving from a tank. That tank feeds a tote bag inside the vessel. So we basically create a bag inside that vessel. We fill that liquid inside the vessel. We pressurize that liquid, gets then deposited into a septic tank, and then we fill that packaging. We have a machine currently installed in France, and there are conversations around that piece of machinery in the United States as well for beverage companies.
Thank you for explaining that. So kind of a follow-up question. So is there a specific type of plastic and/or gas that needs to be used in the finished bottles?
Yes, the table that Anthony shared about the plastic types that are compatible when looking to find the best packaging option for you. I don't know if you have it there, Anthony, but we can also share this packaging flyer with you, but there are a lot. Mainly, for example, with bottles, PET works pretty well. Also, some PP bottles work, HDPE as well. But yes, as long as they are flexible and water resistant, they work. In case you have questions on if it is compatible or not, you can always carry on trials with Leeward Community College to validate your packaging.
Okay, another packaging question. So can a PLA container with a flat PLA lid be used as packaging? Or is it limited to just PLA bottles with a screw-on lid?
Can you repeat that one? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this question comes from Kat. So Kat, if you'd like, you can unmute yourself and clarify your question, but I'll go ahead and reread it. Can a PLA container with a flat PLA lid be used as packaging?
Yes, with the exception that you will, with containers, you will need to hermetically seal or have a film on top of that container. So we do recommend a decent amount of width with the flange of the container to have a tight seal on that container. And then I did want to share my screen real quick. Let me know if you guys are able to. Are you guys able to see my screen? Yeah, so this is the document that we're going to be sharing. It's a very in-depth guideline on each of the recommendations for different types of packagings, all the options that you can find in the market. We touch on caps, tubs, trays, films, the importance of films and the width of the container, trays, skin pack that a lot of seafood products are laid on, like this octopus that you see here, pouches, which majority are fruit and veggie purees, bag and box, fittings. And then what's neat about this guide is that at the end, you have every category broken down by types of companies that offer that type of packaging. So you can be able to contact these companies to get samples. So I hope that is helpful. Naomi, I will send that right to you as soon as this session's over.
We actually have it from when you presented with us in May. So just drop that into the chat for folks and we'll resend it as well after.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Thank you. Okay. So we also had a question about meat products. So do you have any customers using HPP for stocks, broth, or glacé?
For broths, I think there was some tests that we have done, but I don't know if commercially if it's available. So I wouldn't be able to provide much input on that. I'm not sure if Danielle.
Yeah, same. I think I'm familiar with someone in Europe doing something similar. Right now I cannot recall its name. But I know that it could certainly work because they usually have a high water activity value. So you can help create a clean labeled product with this through HPP.
Okay. Thank you. Another question about HPP and meats. So Sam asked, as I understand it, HPP can infuse marination into meats, but can it also infuse oil-based emulsions into meats?
That is a fantastic question. If I had to answer, I would say yes, but obviously everything needs to be validated. HPP does have, that effect of pressurizing, kind of tenderizing meats, especially with infusing flavors through the medium of marinations. But like everything, it depends. So we would have to do some testing around that. And then going back to the question on the pâtés, the company that currently uses HPP, the name of that company is Martico, Martiko, and they use that. It's a meat, based pâté. And I can drop that in the chat if you want me to.
Thank you. Okay, so another question. Micah asked, if a product is poorly sealed and breaks in the barrel under pressure, would the mess be limited to the barrel or does it require a full clean in place procedure?
You can continue processing. So we have two, I guess, pickup tanks on each ends of the vessel. So you can continue processing. We also have filters in our machine.
And
Major clean in place procedures would usually take place, and the machine does have already a clean in place, but it would be if you're moving from, like, let's say a seafood product, to juices, you would then have a clean in place procedure.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. So in thinking about kind of that same line of thought, I saw that you answered it in the chat, but just wanted to make sure everyone else heard this one. So Chris Marakis had asked, what's the water quality requirement for the chamber? Simply potable, any reuse of water? And he asks because this is contact water, right?
Correct. So the water is being contacted to the surface of the packaging. Typically, it is regular tap water, but there are certain specifications that we have for that water outlined in our installation manual. I don't have those on the top of my head, but I can provide that to that individual directly.
Okay. Let's see. Max, I saw that you asked a number of different questions. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question? Or I can read it out from the chat.
Sorry, I just trying to figure this out. Can you hear me now?
Yep. we can
Yes.
hear you.
I asked quite a few questions, like you said. Trying to remember which ones it is.
I'm
So
here.
one, I guess, back to, is there anyone in America who has the 525 yet? The bulk process?
Absolutely. So the bulk processing equipment, no, only in Europe.
Yeah,
But
okay.
there are a number of
Yeah, because the last I checked with you guys, that was the same. It was just in Europe, yeah. So hoping somebody in America will get that because that'd be super helpful for beverage.
very, very soon, hopefully.
Do you have any leads as far? You probably aren't able to share, so that's you're not saying anything. But
Yeah, I don't.
Timeline wise, I mean, we're hoping, year, 2 years to potentially have a bulk.
and will
machine.
that be a resource that companies can resource? Or is that going to be a privately owned machine?
Depends. There's conversations with a toller, which would be a third service provider, and there's also conversations with a private beverage company.
Okay. Just random side question: is True Fresh still available in Southern California, or is that now processed to something else?
No, True Fresh was purchased by HPP Food Services.
Oh, I see. They're labeled differently. Okay, got it. Sorry. So back to my questions on the chat here. So the raw milk, is that really considered raw milk, or is that considered processed? And I know that's like a hairy line, but reason why I'm asking is because in Hawaii it's illegal to drink raw milk. So if it was considered a kill step in those lines, then possibly it might be a good beneficial thing for Hawaii.
So this question that you asked is an eternal debate in food science about if it is considered raw or not.
Right.
While HPP is a cold pasteurization, you're still preserving all the nutritional attributes and quality and sensory attributes of a raw milk, But since you're processing it as a lethal step in order to inactivate pertinent pathogens, then it is already processed. However, you can still marketize it as preserving all these benefits of a raw milk. So right now, a lot of people in the food industry are having this debate too. What happens in the US, in contrast to other countries in the world, is that, yes, you're right. Like raw milk is pretty difficult to validate in the US. By difficult, I mean that you need to inoculate and study the right pathogens in order to have it accepted. So that is why if you're interested in doing this, it's important to contact them directly in order to validate your product correctly. So
Right.
they can be fine with this. But for example, in Mexico, the regulatory aspect is different. And if
Totally.
you've validated, like depending on their legislation, it can work as well as in Australia.
Thanks. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah. And then another question I have is like as as far as um you know the HPP machines, like how often do they have to be serviced? Like how often do they break? Because I know I've used HPP before previously in the past with my product in LA, and I've ran into issues before where the machine breaks down and now my processing, because I was my shelf life wasn't so extended, it was like now I'm in the process of like, okay, well, now I have customers that I have to deliver a product to, but the machine's broken, and it would like took quite a bit of time in order for that to be fixed. And then get my product going back through the machine. So the reason why I'm asking is just the thought of a hyperbaric machine being in Hawaii. I'm like already looking at it going, wow, are they as prepared as they need to be with this? Like you're gonna run products through this machine, and then what? Like you have to rely your product on this machine. How readily available are those parts? Is that going to be available into Hawaii as much as it is everywhere else? Also, is there anybody here who knows how to fix the machine? You know what I mean? So those are all just questions that I don't know if you're able to answer or if it's like the Wahiwa guys.
Max, no, I think these are really good questions. So, if you have the correct PMs in place, spare parts readily available, an operator that knows, what they're doing, you can expect 95% uptime with these machines. We have tollers that operate, on a 24/7 basis where they, take maintenance. They'll do 3 to 4 hour maintenance per week, depending on, how the toller operates. But, if you have everything in place, you shouldn't have any challenges around that. As far as spare parts availability, we have 4 global warehouses, including emergency spare parts, if they're not available by the operator here in Miami, a full warehouse where we can ship within guaranteed 24 hours. But with already a machine being in place, I think there's going to be a lot of synergies. If any other future machines are designed to be built in Hawaii, where a lot of these parts can be, interchanged and can be, installed on one another.
And then I guess my next question off the chat on that topic would be like, as far as experience, you say experienced operator, is there any experienced operator running the one in Hawaii, or is it kind of just curious on that? Do we have somebody?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question, but what I can tell you though is that with every purchase of a hyperbaric machine, we provide a full training to the individuals. I believe that has already been done so with Leeward, but perhaps Naomi can expand on whether there's an operator at the moment or not.
Yeah, so our staff is actively being trained, and for operation of our hyperbaric unit, it will be limited to those staff members who have received that extensive training. We have another one coming up in a few months. So if there's opportunities to involve others in that, then we'll send it out via our usual communication methods. Yeah. Thank you.
Then,
so many awesome questions.
Yeah, and Max, and it sounds like it comes from a worry perspective.
I know, yeah. I'm sorry to like put that on everybody,
no.
It's just more of a it's just more of an reality type of thing. Like I've ran my product through HPP before, so I've just coming to terms and making sure everybody knows like there is not like you just throw your product in and it's all good, like formulation is a big issue. There's a lot of other things that come to terms with this HPP machines, and just want to make sure everybody's like prepared for that, rather than being unprepared and spend a bunch of money in the wrong direction, and then they don't know what's happening, right?
Absolutely. I think these are really good questions. And I guess to add on from what I've already said, Hyperbaric does have with the purchase of the machine, aside from installation, we provide a 24/7 remote assistant support. Typically,
Nice.
90% of the challenges, we can, tell a remote and pinpoint, what's going on in the machine. But if that wasn't the case, we can be on site within 24 hours and make any, repairs necessary.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
it is a good point, across the board, not just for HPP, but for really any type of machinery that you're running in a plant, then it can be challenging to get parts shipped or to find a technician knowledgeable on that piece of equipment. So we certainly recognize that, and thank you for bringing it up, and thank you, Anthony's team, for addressing those concerns. Certainly very valid concerns. And being part of the community college, our facility is primarily focused on education and helping entrepreneurs be able to test out these different pieces of equipment and processes. And so
yeah, so there won't be like an actual production setup on that 55 machine at all. It sounds like.
well, there may be some opportunities potentially for small scale production. And we can definitely connect with you offline to discuss what your anticipated volumes are that you're looking to produce, and how we might be able to support with that, whether that's in our facility or connecting you with someone within our network.
Also, Naomi, I will just like to add, I liked what you mentioned about in any pilot plant while you're testing different products, even if it's not an HPP processed product, even if it's a pasteurized, I don't know, type of product, it needs to go through a validation step of different things, from formulation, from labeling, from processing, from optimizing, different steps in all this development of a new product that will be launched into the market. So yes, as Max mentioned, it's important to take into consideration this. And that is why if you have any question on, and you require any guidance on how you can develop your HPP products, you can of course contact Leeward Community College, and also you can contact us if needed as well, so that we can bring you the support that you can need for this, so that you can go through this path joined by someone that knows the technology as well.
For sure, yeah. So I did see a few more questions come through again on the topic of packaging. So we wanted to pivot back to the PLA question. So a PLA container heat sealed with compostable film should work as long as the surface that connects the container and the film is large enough, correct?
Yes, but we always recommend to any sort of packaging always to validate. So I would recommend, once you have received those samples, package your product. Perhaps this is something they can work on with Leeward Community College. Do a packaging test, run a cycle, and make sure it withstands the compatibility to pressure. But yes, in a nutshell, the answer would be yes. Containers are usually the most challenging because you're having to deal with the film and sealed to the container. And I do also want to point out these are processed without the lids because we don't want water to enter below the lid. So you run them like you guys saw in that video of the guacamole without the lid. After it's processed, that's when you dry the product and then put the lid on top.
Also, by processing it without the lid, you prevent any water to be inside between the lid and the film. So you prevent mold from growing because of moisture remaining there. And also there are different advice that you can follow by choosing the best cups and lid as well. If you have questions on this, you can reach out to us directly. But for example, the flange, the minimum size that it can be will be 5 millimeters if you want to take this as reference. Also plastic made, and there are different suggestions which are also mentioned in our packaging resources at our website.
Thank you. So here's a topic that we haven't really touched upon yet. It has to do with cooking. So Pierre asked, can we use it to cook meat products such as pate, rillettes in glass jars? If yes, could we use it to also cook the meat inside the jars?
So you lost me there. So can you repeat that one, Sar? I'm trying to find that question.
Yeah, so it's in the Q&A feature actually. Pierre, do feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to clarify the question. So
Yes, sorry. But since I kind of got my answer, since we cannot really use jars, from glass jar in that chamber. But my question, if we use something else than a jar, can it be used to actually cook the meat? Or it needs to be cooked first and after put in the packaging and I appreciate it.
So it would follow a cooking step, and then once you have it in the final packaging already packaged up, then you would put it through the machine.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so we also got a question about nutritional value. So kind of was touched upon in the overview, but could you explain more about whether there's any loss in nutritional value of foods undergoing HPP?
Yeah, I
Let's say
can,
that. Go
yeah.
ahead, Daniela.
So there are different studies going on that are published right now on how HPP will interact with nutrients of interest. So for example, right now I remember a study that was done by one of our customers, which is Steve's Real Pet Food. And they did a study on raw pet food formulations. And they saw that they analyzed 95 different nutrients, and it was over 70% of these. Don't quote me on the exact percentage because I don't have it right now in mind, but like it was the majority of it, they were preserved. And then like a 15% of it increased. And this increased because of different molecular interactions and because of the cell structure, because of the cell wall that gets ruptured, and different compounds of interest, mainly phenolic compounds, vitamins, antioxidant compounds with high antioxidant capacity are released. And because of this, they increase. But still, they did mention that there were other compounds that decreased. But by reformulating this product, they were able to create a formulation that had the initial nutritional value that was expected. So by reformulating, you can easily achieve this type of minimal changes. And these minimal changes were occurred, and the hypothesis and what different research arguments and mention is that because of the interaction of different molecules with HPP, and also because of different reactions that occur through the storage, oxidative or any others, some vitamins could be compromised, but still is not that impactful. And it can be pretty easy to overcome this effect as well.
And I think the message here is, with any process, whether it be a minimal process like HPP is, even freezing or such, once you change the composition of, certain foods, you have certain vitamins and minerals that increase or even decrease at times. But I think the main message is that when using HPP, it is the most minimal. You're going to change the nutritional profile of a product. If there's a specific, raw material or product that you guys are interested in learning, how does that change, or how does the nutritional profile change? Just let us know. We can review the literature. There's been, hundreds of studies that have taken place with HPP and its effect on, numerous products. We can look into that. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great, Danielle, that's a great case study. And I shared that link, that study in the link in the chat, I'm sorry, for anyone that wants to review that study. And this was done on raw pet food formulations.
Thank you. So on a slightly different topic, so Peter had asked, do you have information on break-even quantities for products already being high pressure processed?
Don't think I understand that question. Break-even quantity, so kind of like a break-even point on, or are they trying to understand the cost of that it would have on their product?
Yeah, and Peter, please feel free to unmute and chime in. But I believe the question comes from, yeah, a perspective of wanting to know, since
Yes.
it
Yeah,
does
so
require a lot of electricity and water.
So
it was pertaining to cost and for the user, to know approximately like what kind of quantities they need to produce to make it feasible.
got it. So that's a fully loaded question. You can answer this in so many ways. It depends. If you're going to do a small scale production with, Leeward Community College, it depends on, their pricing, and the loadout you can have on their baskets. If we're talking about, one of our larger machines, to give you some perspective, Leeward's machine can do about 600 pounds of product per hour. If we install our largest machine, we can do, anywhere between 7,000 and 8,000 pounds per hour. Obviously, going back to depending on the packaging, how much product can we get into those baskets? And it really depends on the costing of the operator. It's difficult for us. We can tell the operator kind of this is what your operating cost is, but obviously to create a successful business, you're gonna have to marginalize it and then extend that to the user. So, Peter, I think it's a little difficult to answer that question, but I hope at least that gives you some insights.
And maybe to somewhat piggyback off of the question and the answer, so some of the cost considerations would be the operator. There was some activity in the chat talking about tolling facilities as well. So, it's kind of, you'd have to ask yourself, am I trying to calculate the cost of it if I have my own unit, or am I going through a tolling facility or a shared facility like the Wahiawa Product Development Center? And then also, I do want to also mention the topic of validation studies. So I had seen that Sam had asked if we have micro testing in-house, or do we recommend a micro testing company locally for validating HPP microbial results? So I think this ties into the question of the break-even cost, because a validation study may potentially be an additional cost. And Sam, we can discuss more offline, but basically, if you are regulated by Department of Health, the Hawaii Department of Health, they require that you put in an application for a variance if you're wishing to send your product through HPP. And one of the supporting documents that you need for that application is a process authority letter. So the process authority may require you to do a validation study. There isn't any place within the state currently that does those validation studies. But if it's a product that there's a lot of existing research on, then potentially the process authority can lean on that. Okay. So we have about a minute left here. So we will follow up with the recording as well as the packaging document that the Hyperbaric team shared. Anthony, any final closing remarks?
No, just as far as closing, I really hope, the information was informative, insightful, kind of shared, different successful opportunities. But, if there's any, local growers or producers or, manufacturers in the audience, and, if you're looking to develop a product or you currently already have a product, feel free to reach out to us. or to Leeward Community College, which we provide guidance as well. And we would love to kind of, have a very hands-on approach and let you know, this is what you can expect from HPP, similar other products as far as shelf life and food safety goes. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, Naomi. It's always a pleasure to kind of, provide education, and we look forward to any future sessions. And hopefully maybe doing one on site. We would love to come to Hawaii.
Yeah. Big mahalo to the whole Hyperbaric team for joining us today. And thank you also to all the attendees. Love the engagement and all the questions and learning alongside all of you folks. So thank you so much for joining today, and have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
So that was an international meeting or training.